when we will deal with the consideration, sometimes normally we get confused. If the payment of consideration is also the performance of the contract. No, it is not a performance of the contract. In fact, it is the consideration to be paid for the performance of the promise by the other party. So what is the force majeure? Force majeure is, if we see that there is normally a clause in the agreement which says that if something is impossible due to certain event, and what could be that event? That is the act of God. Firstly, the act of God. Now it has been further defined, and rather, in fact, the definition of the force majeure is a tailor-made definition. When two persons are entering into a contract, they can define what would be included in the force majeure conditions or what would be the extraordinary conditions during which, if they are not able to perform the contract, what is going to happen. So there is no definition provided in the Contract Act about the force majeure. More so, the entire word, the force majeure, has not been defined or referred in the entire Contract Act. Therefore, it is not a phrase which has been taken from the law. It is basically a commonly used, and again from the Latin and then the French. The force majeure word is a French word, means superior power. Something which has happened not in the control of any of the party. So something is superior, or that thing has been affected by a power. So it's a force majeure clause. The force majeure clause is normally divided into the two parts. Number one part is the act of God. The incidences which have been caused mainly due to the act of God, such as earthquake, flood, fire. These are the act of God. Man-made events are war, riots. Those are kind of the events of the man-made events. Sometimes the epidemics have been also been provided, which has been again in the definition of the act of the God. There is possibility in many agreements that the definition does not contain a particular thing. Like take an example of the epidemics or a pandemic, which is now we are facing because of the COVID-19. So that has not been provided. That has not been defined because it was not envisaged, not imagined. So what will happen? So nothing has been provided. One. Second is that you will find there are the many contracts where there is no force majeure clause. Then what will happen if there is no clause force majeure? What's going to happen? To understand this, I have rather divided the contracts into the following part. Number one is the money contracts. These are the contracts where the transactions are related to the money or the payment of money. You take the example of the loan. Bank has disbursed the loan. Now you are liable to make the payment of interest and the installment. Similarly, a landlord has leased out his premises. Now he is entitled only to receive the rent. First kind of. Second is the sale purchase kind of the contract, where the sales have to take place or it has been partly taken and the force majeure conditions has been emerged. Third is the construction contract. And fourth is the consultation contract or the service contract, various kind of architect service, engineer services. So those are the service contracts. So these are the broadly which I have categorized for the purpose of my understanding to this. There are the four type of the contract. Again, come back. The four type of this contract may have a force majeure clause, may not have a force majeure clause. But event has taken place. You can even assume that a fire has taken place or some kind of pandemic has taken place or a political event, take the example of the war, has taken place. When these kind of things have taken place, then what will happen if the clause has not been given? That we have to refer the Contract Act. Contract Act has provided to, basically I'm going to refer the three provisions. One is section 32, section 56 and section 65. Why there are these three sections I am referring? So if we see the first section 32, 32 talks about the contingent contract. I'll read the definition so that we will just refer together. Section 32 provides so many books here. The enforcement of contract contingent on an event happening. Contingent contract to do or not to do anything if an uncertain future event happens cannot be enforced by law unless and until that event has happened. That event has become impossible, such contracts become void. So section 32 talks about two things. Number one, at the time of entering into the contract, the parties are well aware about the certain events to take place, and if that events will take place, only the contract would be performed. And suppose that event does not take place, then your contract would get frustrated or it will declared void. Take the example, A is interested in selling his property where he has some ownership dispute with B. Now he enter into a contract with C saying that I am willing to sell you this property at X consideration, though at this time I am not having the full right of ownership. My right of ownership will depend upon the final judgment of the court, and if it comes in my favor, then I will execute the sale deed in your favor and transfer the property. So this is a contingent contract where a contingency which is known to both the parties at the beginning, which says that, what it says that if the judgment of the case will come in his favor, then only he will be able to execute the sale deed. Suppose he loses, then what will happen? In that case, he will not be able to execute the sale deed. When he is not able to execute the sale deed, can the buyer go for the specific performance? The answer would be no, because the agreement has become void due to act of the impossibilities. And what is the impossibilities? Because it was already known to the parties that this contract would come to the end only upon happening of this certain event, and if those events happens in favor of the seller, then only he'll be able to sell the property, otherwise not. So these are the things. So far, so section 32, because you are going to see section 32 and reference of section 56 wherever there is a clause related to the force majeure. Now come to the section 56. 56 deals with the doctrine of frustration. When a contract would become frustrated due to the impossibilities, and the effect would be that the contract would rendered void. Now, what are the impossibilities? It has not been defined, but the section 56, what it reads: agreement to do impossible act. An agreement to do an impossible act itself is void. The agreement says that if you are doing anything which is impossible, like ये बोला गया कि तारे तोड़कर ला कर दूंगा मैं, it is impossible act. So that is ab initio impossible act and the agreement is void. The second part कहता है कि you have entered into a contract. At the time of entering into the contract, you were fully aware that this can be performed by the party or it can be performed by the promisor. So kindly try to understand. If we read section 56, it has two parts. First part straightway says that if you are entering into a contract for doing something which is impossible, suppose someone says that if you lift 300 kg weight, then I will pay you this much of money. So this act itself is an impossible act. So far, so a common and normal man is concerned. Therefore, this act is ab initio void. First part. But second part says that when you are entering into a contract, you are well aware about a thing which is doable. Like I am entering into a contract for construction of a house. This is permissible contract. This is a performable contract. But after entering into the contract, neither party knows what's going to happen. Suppose earthquake comes and that house gets destroyed, then the entire act becomes impossible. Therefore, the second part of this section is very important, which says that contract to do act afterwards becoming impossible or unlawful after entering into. So a contract to do an act which after the contract is made become impossible or by reason of some event which the promisor could not prevent unlawful becomes void when the act become impossible or unlawful. So section 56 says that if something become impossible to do after entering into the contract, then it would become void, an impossible act. So friends, we have seen these two sections 32, and I hope that you would have understood the difference between section 32 and section 56. And even in 56, there are the two parts where at the initial stage, at the time of entering into the contract, the parties are well aware that the act is impossible, then contract is void ab initio. Second is that after entering into the contract, some event take place, act of gods take place, or some impossibilities comes. In that case, at that stage, what will happen? In that stage, again, it will become impossible. Now, again, I will come back to the agreement. Force majeure clause has been mentioned in the agreement. If that has taken place, any of the act has been taken place, what will happen? The work which is to be executed, kindly pay little attention on this, a work to be executed, meaning hereby the word is the promise which is to be performed, not the consideration, may get suspended, one condition, or if it has become impossible, then the agreement may get terminated. Meaning, in case of happening of any event which comes within the definition of the force majeure or in the definition of the impossible act, it has two effects. First effect is that the execution may get suspended or the execution of the promise may stand terminated. These are the minor difference between these two. What are the effects? Therefore, whenever there is an agreement drafted with a clause of the force majeure clause, it contains few important things. Number one, the definition. Number two, the period of the force majeure. If a force majeure continue for a period of 3 months or for a period of 6 months, then what will happen? And if it continued thereafter, then what will happen? One, then which party will do what? Then which party will do what, that has also been defined. Now take the example. If a agreement contains that in case of any of the force majeure event which has already been defined in the agreement, if it continues for a period of say 3 months, thereafter the entire agreement will get terminated. And if it is within a period of 3 months, see the duration of the force majeure is 3 months, then during the period of the force majeure, the execution of the promise will get suspended, and once that condition is over, then thereafter they have to perform. Now take the example of this COVID-19. COVID-19, one can easily say that it has been started from the 22nd of the March or the 24th March when the lockdown was declared in the country. If that is the condition, and your force majeure condition provides that if there is a continued force majeure for a period of 3 months, and thereafter the lockdown has been removed with before 6 months, so this period would be excluded, or this period would be extended. But suppose it continued beyond that 3 months, then at the option of the parties, any of the party, this may stand terminated. This may get terminated. So now take the example of the COVID. Nobody has envisaged in the agreement epidemic or pandemic. If it is not there, then you have to refer to the section 56. Now when it comes to the 56, then again we have to see what are the impossibilities and whether this kind of the things would cover under the definition of section 56 or not. I'm taking two types of the agreement. In one, when there is a specific mention of the pandemic or the epidemic. Second, nothing has been mentioned about the pandemic or this epidemic or the COVID. And third is that where there is no clause. Now take the first example where the epidemics has been mentioned, but there would be a dispute whether this epidemic would be considered or it will not be considered. Whether even if the words has been provided or not been provided, who is going to decide whether it's a part of the force majeure definition or not? So ultimately it would be decided by the court, or if there is an arbitration clause in the agreement, by the arbitrator. Because today everybody would try to, who is going to get the benefit of it, will try to get somehow covered under the definition of the force majeure, and they may refer one of the letter by the Ministry of Finance of 19th of February 2020 in case of some supply material. What they have said that a doubt has been arisen if the disruption of supply chain due to the spread of coronavirus in China or any other country will be covered in the force majeure clause. In this regard, it is clarified that it should be considered as a case of natural calamity, and FMC means for force majeure clause may be invoked whenever considered appropriate following the due procedure. Friends, issue is that a mere office memorandum issued by any department of Government of India can affect a contract, a bi-party contract which has been entered between the two parties with open eyes and the mind. My answer would be that any such office memorandum have no force of law. This will not bind the parties to accept that the present situation of the corona or the COVID is a part of their force majeure clause. So kindly don't get confused if someone refers you this office memorandum or some other office memorandum. So these are not a statutory definition or which covers the which comes under the definition of the force majeure. So these are the only advisories, and it may only be used for the taking some advantage, but it has no force of law. Now the issue is no force majeure clause has been provided. Then section 56 we have to take, and the section 56 again I said it has two parts. What is the first part? Is okay. The second part is a contract to do an act after the contract is made becomes impossible. Now we have to see whether the COVID-19 has made any contract to become impossible, or by reason of some event which the promiser could not prevent unlawful become void when the act become impossible or unlawful. If we read again and again this definition, we will find that this section 56 talks about the absolute term. When there is a impossibilities to do further work. COVID-19 is not an impossibility. It has merely suspended or defer or extended the execution of the work. Impossibilities has not taken place. Where the impossibilities come, take the example of the earthquake. An entire building has been collapsed. Nothing is there. A fire has gutted the entire premises. Nothing is possible now to do. Those are the situations where you can take the example or benefit of section 56 to say that once there is a static impossibilities or of a permanent nature, then the section 56 would come. Therefore, the force majeure clause, though you will find either in the contract or you will find section 56, it's difficult to invoke and difficult to take the advantages. It looks very rosy kind of thing, and the people are now getting so much of, I am reading in the newspapers and articles also on this subject. What the people are feeling that now they have been discharged of their liabilities, they need not to do anything. It's a total wrong perception. The force majeure clause does not provide any kind of the waiver. It does not give any kind of the relaxation. You now need not to do anything. It only suspends for a limited period because there is no impossibilities. Now the doubts have been raised. What will happen? So I'll take the four kinds of the examples which I have taken for the purpose of force majeure. My first example or the category was the money transactions, where the loan has been taken, now installment have to be paid. As I said, now the impossibilities of the promise, impossibilities of the performance of the promise, not the payment of the consideration. There can never be the impossibilities to pay the consideration. If something financially or there is a financial crisis with the one of the party or the promisee, that does not come within the definition of the force majeure clause or the definition of the section 56. Suppose some accident has taken place and fire has gutted the house of one of the party, which has no direct or indirect relationship with the work to be executed somewhere else. Can that be a force majeure clause? Can he say that my house has been gutted in fire, therefore force majeure because which contains a word fire, and now I will be prevented to pay the money and I'll not pay the money. Can he say so? Answer is no. The happening of the event should directly to the promise. Directly to the promise or the work or the performance. So once the work has been performed, then the promiser is entitled to receive the consideration from the promisee. So in case of a bank loan, you enter into an agreement with the bank where the bank has agreed to lend you the money and has disbursed the money, either the full or part of the money. Even the bank, suppose the bank has disbursed you only the part of the money. What you are required, you cannot take a shelter of the force majeure clause. There was a flood in my city, or there was an earthquake in my city, or there was a COVID-19 in the country. Therefore, I will not pay the installment, nor I will pay the interest. Why I have taken this example? Because nowadays there are the many people comes, and as a lawyer, you would also come across many people asking you कि sir मेरी तो installment payment है वो तो waive हो गई है क्या? So kindly make it clear. In such kind of a situation where the one party, in fact, a promiser has already completed his promise, and the promisee is now need to pay the consideration, there cannot be any force majeure clause. Force majeure is not applicable on money transactions. Even section 56 will not come to any help in case of the money transactions or the financial transactions. Now take the same example, ki loan has been partly disbursed and this has taken place, or I go a step ahead and say that even fire has taken place or war has broken out between the two countries. Something has happened, even including which comes under the definition of the force majeure clause. Since you have already availed the benefit, a part of the contract has already been executed, then you have not been supposed to withhold the payment of the consideration. Now anyone can ask a question, where is that provision? In case of a force majeure condition also, which is coming or covered by the force majeure definition, as I have given the example of fire, earthquake, even in that case, how can he recover the money? Then answer has been provided under section 65. I'll just read section 65. 65, obligation of persons who has received advantage under void agreement or contract that becomes void. We have seen section 32 as well as section 56, which culminate ultimately in case of impossibilities, a contract as void. If a contract has become void, then what's the answer? Answer has been provided. If he has received any of the benefit or advantage, even in a void contract, he is liable to pay the or reciprocate his promise, means he has to pay the consideration. So in the same line, if someone has borrowed the money from the bank, bank has disbursed, even part of the money has been disbursed, then it is his responsibility and liability to repay that loan in terms of the contract, and therefore no force majeure or the benefit of section 56 shall be available. I'm not discussing at this moment whether it is really impossible or it is not impossible. We have just discussed what is impossible and what is not impossible, whether this COVID-19 falls within a definition of impossibilities or not impossibility. So it doesn't come within the definition of the impossibility. It's only defer the execution of the promises. Now the next most sought question is about the lease or the rent. What to do? सर रेंट पेमेंट करना पड़ेगा या नहीं करना पड़ेगा? Now if we test it on the touchstone what I have discussed with you, now you know the answer. First is that it falls within the definition of the money transactions kind of thing, in that category, because the landlord has already performed his promise. He has put you in the possession of the property for your benefit and for your enjoyment of the property on payment of the consideration, that is the lease rent. So what is the promise here? The promise is to hand over the possession of the property for the benefit and enjoyment of the lessee. So lessee has already received the benefit of the performance of the promise by the landlord. Now lessee is required to pay the lease rent, and lease rent is what? Lease rent is the consideration for the benefit which he is going to derive from taking the possession of the property. So again here, the contract has been performed, only reward has to be transferred. So no force majeure would applicable. I'll refer two judgments of the Supreme Court. First judgment is Raja Dhruva Dev Chandra versus Raja Har Mohinder Singh. It's a AIR 1968 SC 1024. Friends, it's a very interesting case. What had happened in this case? Before partition, a certain land was given on lease to one of the party. After partition, both the parties migrated to India. The other party claimed the lease rent of the land. Matter went to the court. The second party tried to take the benefit of the force majeure clause or the impossibility, saying that now this land has fallen within the territory of the Pakistan, where due to the communal riots and all other prevalent conditions, he cannot use this property. Therefore, there was an impossibilities. The Supreme Court has negated this. Someone has also flashed this judgment of the Dhruv Chandra Har Mohinder Singh. So in this case, the Supreme Court has held that land was already transferred. Your liability was only to pay the lease rent. Therefore, you will pay the lease rent, and you are not going to get the benefit of the any force majeure conditions, because what I have discussed with you earlier. Another part came into this, which is with reference to the lease. The provisions of Contract Act are not applicable in case of a lease. And when the provisions of Contract Act are not applicable, then what is applicability? Then section 56 has no applicability, and applicability comes of the Transfer of Properties Act. As you all must be knowing it, section 5 defines the lease, and section 105 onward deals with the provisions of the lease in the Transfer of Properties Act. if something has come like impossibilities, what will happen? The answer has been provided under section 108B subsection E. I'll read that. I'm keeping handy with me. Was section 108, rights and liabilities of the lessor and lessees. Part A is the right and liabilities of the lessor, and part B is the right and liabilities of the lessee. The second part, the E liability, the second liability or which has been provided, if by fire, tempest or flood, or violence of any army or of a mob, or other irresistible force, any material part of the property be wholly destroyed or rendered substantially and permanently unfit for the purpose for which it was let, the lessee at the lease at the option of the lessee be void. Two things. First is that the property should be totally destroyed, or it should have been substantially and permanently unfit for the purpose it was granted. Permanently unusable, unserviceable. Then only, even the lessor has no right. Right has been conferred upon the lessee at his own option. He can terminate and declare the lease void. When a specific provision has been provided in case of happening of certain eventualities, like a fire, earthquake, or war, which itself is a part of the section 108 BE, then there is no applicability of the force majeure or no applicability of section 56. So it's very important for all of us to understand that which act is applicable in case of a lease or in a present scenario. My answer is only the Transfer of Properties Act, which deals with the lease. The right liability of the lessor and lessee would prevail over the Indian Contract Act. I get support from section 4 of the section 4 of the Transfer of Properties Act. Section 4 says that of the Transfer of Properties Act shall read with the provisions of the Indian Contract Act, not a vice versa. So wherever we are talking about the Contract Act, we have to read the provisions of Transfer of Properties, but not when we are reading the Transfer of Properties Act, we have to read the provisions of Contract Act. Therefore, what I understand, the provisions of Indian Contract Act are not applicable, and this has been dealt in the Satyavrat Bose case and then the T. Lakshmipati case 2003 5 SCC 150 as well as AIR 1954 SC 44. Again, we take a little shift. There is a force majeure clause. How to invoke it? Invocation requires a notice in writing by a party which is not able to fulfill the promise. Friends, you will appreciate that at the beginning I try to make it clear difference between the promise and the consideration. Now, a party who is required to execute certain tasks or to provide some services, if it is find itself unable to do certain things in performance, then that party is required to issue a notice invoking the force majeure clause. Then only the claim under the force majeure would be entertained. So notice is a condition precedent and it is must. Suppose no notice has been given. Take the example of the lease, a building case. A building has been fully destroyed. Notice has not been issued. What will happen? The answer has been provided by the MP High Court. Sankar Prashad R 2013 MP 2146. I'll repeat the citation. ILR 2013 MP 2146. And that is followed by some other judgments of the Supreme Court, Bombay High. This judgment has been followed by the Bombay High Court in case of the amalgamated Beans Coffee and the Airport Authority versus Hotel Leela Venture. About the notice, what had happened in this case? What was the issue before the High Court, our High Court? One of the godown which was leased out, destroyed totally. But the lessee did not give a notice of the force majeure or the impossibilities. Then thereafter, there was a dispute about the payment of the lease as the lessor had terminated the agreement. In this case, the lessee tried to take the benefit of the force majeure clause, saying that the entire construction or the building was destroyed. The court, as my MP High Court has held that no benefit would be available because notice was not given. So notice is again very important whenever we get such kind of the situations where a party is suffering or the lessee is suffering. Next type of the agreement which I have referred is the sale purchase agreement, trading agreement. These are the agreements where a supply is to be made within a limited period or a given period. Take an example, some supplies to be made, say by the 31st March 2020. Because of lockdown, it has not been supplied. What will happen? If nothing has been mentioned in the contract about the force majeure clause, it's a simple contract where one party has agreed to supply certain quantities at a particular rate within a such period. And if the party has failed, what will happen? As we have seen that there is nothing impossible in our case. I'm taking the first example. There is no force majeure clause in this agreement. Now he has not supplied you the goods by the 31st March. You are ready with the money or even, but the goods have not been supplied. What will happen? Can the seller take the advantage of section 56 in absence of the force majeure? And if we read again and again section 56, we will find the answer. Let me read. I'll read the second part. A contract to do an act which after the contract is made become impossible, or by reason of some event which the promisor could not prevent, unlawful, becomes void when the act becomes impossible or unlawful. Last time when I read, intentionally I have not put the emphasis over the word unlawful. Now here what is happening, after 24th of March, your supplier cannot supply the goods only for the reason that has become unlawful. Why it has become unlawful? Because there are the administrative orders passed by the competent authorities restraining the movement of the goods on the road by way of the lockdown. So that is the reason what it says that has become impossible or by the reason of some event which the promiser could not prevent. So here the promiser could not prevent. Unlawful becomes void when the act become impossible or unlawful. So here if he do something despite declaration of the lockdown, if he moves his truck or the cargo, then it is an unlawful activity. So he has been prevented. Therefore, section 56 will come for his aid. Now the duration and to what extent. So here again, issue which is to be decided by the court, because there would be a debate. If the rates are continue to be in favor of the buyer, then he would insist for the supplies. And if the buyer feels that the rate has been come down, then he may not insist for the supplies, where on the other hand, the seller would say, now I am ready to supply. So therefore, what is going to happen? It's going to be ultimately decided by the court or by the arbitrators on the basis and appreciation of the facts of each of the case. And now come back to the clause where this force majeure clause has been provided in the agreement. Issue would be that whether this kind of situation is covered or it is not covered. Because since the activity itself has become unlawful by virtue of the administrative orders of the government, then it may cover. Again, one has to go by the wordings of each of the word. Third, that if once a force majeure clause has been provided in the agreement, then the benefit of 56 cannot be taken. You have to be governed by your own clause. I think what's my time? It's already 53 minutes.
Sorry to interrupt, sir. Actually, we were so engrossed. That was very insightful. We have an open session right now, and there are certain questions raised by the audience. First, I would like to invite our advocate Girish Patwardhan ji, sir. He has raised his hand. And he's been. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, Girish bhai.
सर एक आपने जो अलग अलग प्रकार बताए एग्रीमेंट्स के, तो इसके अंदर एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट है जो रह गया है. एक नमूना मैं आपको बताना चाहूंगा कि मैंने एक मकान के पेंटिंग का कॉन्ट्रैक्ट दिया.
ठीक है.
इट्स अ वर्क कॉन्ट्रैक्ट and it is to be executed before a particular date and time. And naturally, because of this lockdown, this could not be done, and there is no force majeure clause in the agreement, because normally it is never envisaged that there may be some force majeure. So there is no force majeure clause. Then what will happen?
Sir, if we read the section 56, because here the section 56 will come back, and any act after this lockdown will become the unlawful. And when any act becomes unlawful, then your agreement shall stand declared to be void. So here his agreement has become void. So he is not entitled or he is not required to perform rest of the work. Suppose he has painted only your 2 rooms. Now he can say that, sir, I will not be able to do it because of the section 56. My task was to be completed by say 31st March, and now I did not do it by 31st March due to the it has become the unlawful act. Therefore, now I will not do it. He can claim that, and on the other hand, he can certainly claim from you the charges for the 2 rooms or whatever work he has done by taking help help of
Okay.
section 65.
Fine. Now, for the audience, I want you to address the audience on this latest judgment of 2017 Energy Watchdog. I think that is most cited judgment. So, throw some light on that also.
Sir, in that judgment, I have intentionally did not speak because
Okay.
our objective was not to whether what has said that one, it says that the judgment has rather differentiated the section 32 and section 56. What I discussed earlier, in what situation the section 32 would come to the help and in what
Okay.
situation that section 56 would come, and similarly the whether the section when the act provides help of section 56 on one hand, and on the other hand if the contract provides for the force majeure clause, then the force majeure clause would prevail and benefit of section 56 is not available. This is the judgment, and which has been rather rapid, and if you see it, all these force majeure judgments have been started from the Satyabrat Ghosh case in 1954, where the first time, according to my research, the issue came up for the definition of the force majeure clause and what would be included and how to be operative. And then thereafter, related to the lease watch came at the time of Raja Dhruv, which you have flashed also, cited also, Raja Dhruv Dev case, Pakistan land ka case. And it has been further continuously followed in a recent judgment of 2003 5 SCC 150 T Lakshmipati. So these are the situations. So in see, watchdog judgment is rather authored by the Justice Rohington, and what he did, it's a very lengthy judgment, and only in para 38 and onward somewhere he has in 2-3 paras dealt with this, and crux of the judgment is that once a force majeure clause is there and section 56 is there, then 56 you cannot take the advantage, you are bound by the parties. One. Second is the what are the impossibilities he has dealt with, and what I said, like a COVID case, I said whether it is a impossible or it is not a impossible, that I extracted from that judgment. If it is not
Okay.
to be proved that it is impossible, then you cannot take the advantage of the force majeure clause. And in that case, the price variation was there, the power purchase agreement was there with the government, and the power purchase agreement, there were the certain conditions, and the benefit of the force majeure clause was not given by the Supreme Court. Only because of that, they could not prove the impossibilities.
Okay. Right. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, Prakhar, anyone else? I'm not able to hear you, Prakhar.
Sir, we have another question from Megha Mittal, sir. Megha, please ask your question. Sir, she had messaged it. Sir, please throw light on the monetary loss of the seller during this period. Can the buyer or seller make each other?
Hello.
Yes. Hi, Megha. You're online. Please.
Hello, sir. Good evening. Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
Yes, good evening, Megha.
Sir, actually, I wanted to know about the monetary loss which any party will occur, because I think pragmatically people will adjust to the fact that there will be suspension, or people can wait that the work can start after 3 months. But what about the monetary loss which each of the party, or being the seller or being the buyer, will have to face? And can the seller make the buyer liable for the monetary loss of the suspension, or vice versa? So what kind of liability the seller will have or the buyer will have, depending on the circumstances of every case?
See, for this, I tell you, so far, so the monetary loss and other things are concerned, each party is to bear their own losses. What I try to explain you at the beginning and during my discussion, the force majeure means prevention to do something or due to nobody's involvement or for the act of God. So what is that? A performance of the promise to do certain things. Here, if he is not able to supply the goods, that is covered under the force majeure clause. But due to non-supply of the goods, he can say that I am not able to complete my project here, or now there is a losses. Suppose you take the example you are going to construct a showroom for one of the party, and can he claim that your question, I put it like this, can he claim that there are a business losses because of the delay in execution of the work? My
Exactly.
answer
Right.
is no. He cannot claim it because it is the outside the purview of the force majeure clause, and since the work has not been completed, and that is the advantage of the force majeure. Suppose the force majeure clause would have not been there and there was a delay.
Okay.
You rightly ask a question, I'll answer in a different way. Take an example, one has to supply or complete the project or complete the construction or provide the services by the 31st March. Because of certain reasons, maybe delay, maybe non-availability of the resources with the executor, he could not complete, and he completed instead of 31st March on say the 30th June. What will happen? The loss. In this case, a promisee or a buyer can definitely take the advantage of section 73 and claim the compensation, damages and losses if they have been if it has been provided in the agreement. Those we call it liquidated damages. If nothing has been provided, then section 73 will not come into the force. Then he has to make a claim under section 74. That is a situation. And if a force majeure is there, so force majeure prevents this kind of the losses. Otherwise, what is the advantage of having the force majeure? Force majeure provides you the two advantage. One advantage is that a termination of the contract, if within 3 months, 6 months, and one party says that now I will terminate next day, so there it can be prevented. No, you cannot terminate the contract because of the force majeure. He is not able to perform. You wait, you extend the time. Second is that the compensation, he is not liable for the compensation because of the delay, as the reasons were not in his own hand. Anything?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
There's another question from Swati ma'am. Just unmute her.
Hello, good evening, sir. On behalf of Swati ma'am, I am here. It's Chinmay.
Yes, Chinmay.
The question is, what if there's a stipulation in the contract relating to time, that the performance has to be done in certain time period only, but the time is not of the essence to the contract? Whether such a contract will get the protection of force majeure or section 56 of the Contract Act?
See, even time is the essence of the contract. The force majeure helps him. What I was when replying to the Megha is that why a force majeure clause is required. Now let us understand why there should be a force majeure clause in the agreement. If force majeure clause in the agreement, then what are the advantages or the benefits to any of the party? A party who has to execute the work, if he could not execute the work due to the force majeure event, in that case that party will not be the subject to the penalties, liquidated damages for the delay or other losses to be suffered by the promisee. That is the reason. Now, because of the force majeure event, though time is a essence or even time is not a essence, you could not complete it. Later on, you are completing it. So there cannot be any damages or losses claimed from him for during that period. And both the parties are required to suffer their losses their own. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Sir, one more question from Advocate Piyush Parashar. Just unmute him. Yes, Piyush.
Good evening, sir. First of all, congratulations for this insightful session. Sir, my question is, what if, just like another gentleman said, what if time is not the essence of the contract? Suppose if I have to perform the contract throughout the year, and supposedly a certain period, for example, 2 or 3 months, I am not able to perform the contract, then what happens? can I take help of section 56? And also, let me clarify, what if there is no force majeure clause in the contract, and then for certain period of time it becomes impossible for me to perform the contract? How can I take help of section 56 to say that the contract is now void? Thank you.
Piyush, I think I'm not able to rather explain you the impossibilities. See, your personal impossibilities will not help you to get any benefit either from section 56 or from the force majeure clause. The impossibilities should be because of the any event which is generalized kind of thing. If you say that, and I have given the example also, suppose my house has been gutted in a fire, which is not directly related. I say I have become homeless and I'm not having the money even to have my food. How can I fulfill my my obligations? It's my personal problem, and for my personal problem, I cannot take the example or take the benefit of the force majeure or the impossibility, saying that it has become impossible to me. It is my personal. So we are not talking about the personal impossibilities. We are talking about the impossibilities which are the universe kind of the impossibilities. Like a war has taken place, means the entire country has now suffering. The flood has taken, so which is the act of the God. It's a generalized, it's a entire, you are not the alone sufferer. So if you are talking about the individual impossibilities, there is no respite available to you.
So not individual impossibility. I was talking about the
Not at
impossibility
all,
of,
not at all. Do not
yes.
carry anything in your mind about the individual impossibilities.
I was not
No
talking about
benefit.
the individual. Yes.
Then
Suppose, sir, I was supposed to run a shop according to the regulations stipulated by the government. And what if the operation of the shop itself had become unlawful because of the lockdown? So it is not my personal impossibility.
no, because of lockdown, if it has become the unprofitable to you,
Not
then what kind of
unprofitable, sir. Unlawful, sir.
impossibility?
Sir, unlawful, sir.
No, I'm not able to understand your query. Once again, you explain me.
So can you hear me?
Yes, I am very well hearing you.
Sir, my question was, I was not inferring towards my personal impossibility. What
Yes.
if I was given the responsibility of operation of a shop, for example, and opening of those shops had become unlawful because of the lockdown?
Piyush, is there any agreement? With whom you have the agreement?
So with the government, let's take an example of liquor shops, sir, for example. So now I have a license from the government to run a liquor shop, but operation of the and opening of the liquor shops itself has become unlawful during the period of the lockdown.
You can certainly, that I said that if whatever period of the lockdown was there, that much extension you can seek from the promisee or by the state government or by the government. You can definitely claim like a license. License has been granted for a period of a limited period, say 1 year. But because of lockdown, you are not able to operate your shop, say for a period of now 60 days. So you can definitely claim 60 days extension. That's the force majeure. But you cannot claim the loss of 60 days. The financial loss which you have suffered, that you cannot claim it. Definitely you can claim the extension of the period which have been lost because of the lockdown.
Sure.
That's the force majeure clause. Even in case suppose you are not able to complete your constructions by a particular date, and during that period this any force majeure event has taken place, your period would be extended by the period of the force majeure. Even in case of a time is a essence of the contract. Suppose 60 days you could not work because of the lockdown. So whatever period you have to complete the work, your period would be extended by 60 days. That was my answer to Chinmay also.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Prakhar, I think it's over.
Just one more question from Mayank Verma, sir. Mayank, please proceed.
GB. Good afternoon, sir.
Yes.
Sir, my question is.
Can you speak a little louder?
Okay, sir. If there is an agreement between the parties and due to force majeure condition arises and death or incapacity of any one of the parties occurs, then what will the end result of that agreement?
Incapacity in what sense?
Incapacity due to some accident or some injuries occurs, and the
Again, it's
incapacity
a
of the person.
personal problem. Personal problems are not covered.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Sir, yes, that is all from the audience, sir. Thank you so much for giving us the insightful about the force majeure clause, and thank you for the current session, sir. We hope you have
Thank
enjoyed.
you.
So we have our advocate Pavnekar sir has been with us, sir, throughout.
Okay.
Thank you, thank you. Sir.
It's my privilege. It's my privilege if my seniors have been also joined this, and they can definitely correct me if somewhere I have been wrong or I have not been
I am
correct
not,
with facts of the.
I am learning this process from you.
Sir, you may be learning the computer thing, but you are well versed with the law. So far as
No,
law,
I am.
transfer of properties
No,
and
no.
contracts are concerned, you are our exemplary figure.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Mehta sir is also with us. Mehta sir, would you like to share some views?
Yes, Mehta sir.
It's a good session. I am learning the technicalities of this, how to operate.
I will tell to the audience two things. He was whatever I have said, and Mehta sir is my guru,
Oh,
and he is the rather my SOS kind of help wherever I need any kind of help. So he provides me, and of course he has come on the scene. Otherwise, if he would have not come on the scene, I would have definitely taken his feedback, because I am not sure about my own performance, and he is the person who always judge my performance and guide me how to correct it.
I think everyone is not accepting such a fact.
It's a fact.
Girish
Na?
Bhaiya and Pavnekar Sahab both are there, much senior to me.
Very modest of you, sir. Thank you, thank you. So
Manoj
much.
bhai, very nice. We have enjoyed it.
Thank you very much. I didn't know it may go up to a 1 hour, because if you read the section force majeure, it appears to be यार क्या बोलेंगे इस पर. And when you read with section 56, 2.5 line की तो provisions रहते हैं contract act में, so very difficult to comprehend and then to speak out so much. And when I have to speak before the experts of the law, these are the people who know the inside and outside of the law. So